Chelsea will sign a winger. But after two bids for Jamie Gittens were turned down in the first window, will they move on to another target? Dortmund's Jamie Gittens, weren't they? Two bids rejected. And speaking at the Club World Cup, Enzo Maresca says the club will be bringing in a winger this summer.
Jadon is not with us, so for sure that is a position that probably we need to do something. Also because, as you already know, Misha is not with us. So in this moment we have Noni, Pedro and Tai as a proper winger. So for sure something is going to happen. And we said many times, when the window transfer is open, anything can happen to bring players or to sell players. But we see.
Pretty unequivocal about it. They're going to be getting a new winger this summer, Michael. How great is their need, would you say, in that position?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I'm just intrigued. We've got Carve out there, of course, how Chelsea and Manchester City are going to get on when this tournament finishes. There's not going to be a pre-season for them. Premier League starts straight away. Well done for winning the Conference League, Enzo, but we're going up 2 levels now into the Champions League. I am really, really intrigued by Chelsea next season.
We know, obviously, they had Jadon Sancho, but decided to send him back to Manchester United and pay the £5 million fee. So I guess it's only a matter of time before they get someone. He was quite clear there. They're going to get a right winger. They want a right winger. We know that there was interest in Jamie Gittens at Borussia Dortmund. As you said, Jules, 2 rejected offers. That second offer on deadline day last week, the Club World Cup deadline day, of £42 million, a total package, was rejected. The player, though, wants the Premier League, wants to join Chelsea. Even said, actually, he'd rather play for Chelsea at the Club World Cup than play for Borussia Dortmund. Be interesting to see how much involvement he has over in America for the Club World Cup, because Borussia Dortmund play Fluminense tomorrow, 5 o'clock kickoff UK time. But yeah, Jamie Gittens, definitely a player on Chelsea's radar.
We'll talk more about Chelsea at 7 o'clock, but let's just get to Brighton. A quick word on them. On Chelsea now, who are frustrated, weren't they, in their deadline day pursuit of Borussia Dortmund's Jamie Gittens. They had 2 bids rejected for the winger. And speaking at the Club World Cup, Enzo Maresca says the club will be bringing in a winger this summer.
Jadon is not with us, so for sure that is a position that probably we need to do something. Also because, as you already know, Misha is not with us. So in this moment we have Noni, Pedro and Tai as a proper winger. So for sure something is going to happen. And we said many times, when the window transfer is open, anything can happen to bring players or to sell players. But we see.
So they are going to sign a winger. Michael, that's what he says. We know they like Gittens, couldn't get him in the last window. Do you see that happening? And if not him, who else in that position?
Well, we know we've got Carve out there for us. We're covering Manchester City and Chelsea, and he's spoken to us in the last hour, and he said they've made initial contact with Lyon for winger Malik Fofana. Now, we know they've been looking for a winger, and he's been very open there, hasn't he, the Chelsea head coach? But it's just, it could be Fofana and Gittens. We don't know with Chelsea at the moment. We don't know how Chelsea are going to look when the season starts. This is unprecedented, this new Club World Cup. I don't think they're going to have a proper pre-season. The league's going to start. Then you've got the Champions League starting again. We know Mykhailo Mudryk. We don't know his situation at the moment. Jadon Sancho's not going to be there next season. So it could be him and another. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Maresca was also talking earlier about goalkeepers, and he sort of laid out the order of his keepers next season. Robert Sanchez is number 1. But, of course, we do know that they were trying to get a deal done for Mike Maignan, Mark, in the last window at AC Milan. That didn't happen. Do you see them going back in for him?
Well, they will say, well, we were given the opportunity to sign Mike Maignan. AC Milan contacted us, his representatives contacted us and said, would you be interested in a potential deal? He's into the last year of his Milan contract. He's 29 years old. He wants to come to the Premier League. And Chelsea engaged in that conversation. They'll probably say, we didn't go out searching for a new goalkeeper. However, the fact that they continued those talks and there were alleged offers for him, which were not what AC Milan were looking for, would suggest that they were interested. Enzo Maresca's not going to turn around as well just before a big Club World Cup game and say, oh yeah, actually I'd like to sign a new goalkeeper, because that sends out the message that Robert Sanchez and Jorgensen aren't his number 1 and number 2 at the moment. He's got to make his current players feel like they're valid and important and a big part of the future at Chelsea, even if behind the scenes they're thinking, actually that's a position we need to strengthen. So I'd imagine that Chelsea and goalkeepers will be a topic of conversation that will happen quite a bit between now and September the 1st.
Do you think they'll be busy in other areas as well, Chelsea, this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're certainly in the market for a winger. We know that Jadon Sancho's gone back to Manchester United. We know that Raheem Sterling comes back from Arsenal, but he's expected to go out again. They have been linked with 2 or 3 others in the Premier League. They are keeping an eye on other players in Europe as well. I think a winger, possibly a goalkeeper. I think there may be 3 or 4. I don't quite understand Chelsea's transfer philosophy, although they'll say, look, we really know what we're doing. We've got a plan. We're sticking to our plan. We've got targeted players that we're looking at. We've got a profile of player we're looking at. But I'd imagine that they'd be busy. When it comes to PSR headroom, they've got a lot of room to operate with. They've got money they can spend. And you get the feeling that if Chelsea have money they can spend, they'll go and spend it.
OK, Mark, thank you. That's Chelsea. Let's move on to
Something we know we've heard from Enzo Maresca and Chelsea wanting potential wingers in ahead of the new season. They've made initial contact with Lyon for winger Malik Fofana, first reported by David Ornstein. They're looking at signing a winger in the summer. We know that they want to sign Jamie Gittens from Dortmund before the Club World Cup. They wanted to do that, but Fofana is 20 and has a contract until 2028 with Lyon. So we know Enzo Maresca's been very honest in what they want to bring in. He came off the bench and impressed against Manchester United for Lyon in the Europa League. So that's one to keep an eye on there. So we know Chelsea, even after the Club World Cup, are expected to be busy. Just to let you know, by the way, thank you, Michael. On the subject of Chelsea, Liam Delap on the bench at the Club World Cup game against LAFC this evening. It's Nicholas Jackson who leads the attack. Palmer, Neto, Madueke among those starting for Chelsea. 8 o'clock kickoff against LAFC, and Delap, the new man, on the bench for them this evening. We'll talk more about Chelsea a little later.
Players this summer. You know, you've already seen some big action happen pre the World Club Cup, and you're going to see a lot of action happening after the sort of, I'd say, end of June, when some of the teams have to make some transfers to make the PSR numbers. Then you're going to see another big transfer towards July. A lot of player movements, but the problem is I think there's a huge lack of big talent at the moment that is for sale. So it's very difficult to buy these players out of the clubs, and that is where we're finding a major obstacle.
The news that's been widely reported elsewhere is Crystal Palace expect to announce the signing of goalkeeper Walter Benitez. I expect that in the next few days. He's a 32-year-old goalkeeper out of contract at PSV. A number of clubs were looking at him, but I expect him to sign for Crystal Palace. And I know there's concerns about will they or won't they be in Europe. The ultra-ambitious Oliver Glasner is preparing for Europe, and a goalkeeper who wants to challenge for that number 1 spot is coming in.
Good stuff. Right, let's turn to this game of left-back dominoes. 3 left-backs, one's fallen, which could lead to 2 more, consequently falling after that. Michael, I'll start with you. Adrian Truffert to Bournemouth. Done?
Yeah, done. Confirmed at lunchtime. 11 million with 3 million add-ons. A 5-year deal confirmed by Bournemouth. We are well underway in this transfer window. Will he be providing any competition, Mark? What do you reckon?
Of course, everyone's talking about Milos Kerkez to Liverpool. But Bournemouth will be extremely happy with this business. Financially, it looks great. The fact that he's a young international as well also looks great. They've just signed the Rennes captain. Now, when you think of captains, you think of experience, you think of quality, you think of leadership, you think about certain characteristics that maybe not all players have. But the fact that they've signed someone who made 150 league appearances in May, you get the idea at 23, he's played games, he's got experience. Quite interestingly, actually, Bournemouth had him on their left-back list when they signed Milos Kerkez. But they actually decided at that particular time, we'll get a younger player and maybe go on a little bit of a journey and see if we can develop him. And you'd say probably Kerkez developed quicker than Bournemouth anticipated. Outstanding player, and that's why he's being linked with Liverpool. But they also liked Adrian Truffert, and they kept monitoring, kept watching him, kept keeping an eye on him and seeing how he developed. He ended up becoming the Rennes captain because of those qualities. Barely missed a game as well, which shows how robust he is as a player. Bournemouth feel there'll be no transition. If they do lose Kerkez. They don't feel like it will be a player that has to come in and understand the league and get up to the pace of the Premier League. They feel like he can hit the ground running and start playing immediately in that team.
If they leave Kerkez, how big an if is that?
Well, of course, they're preparing potentially for the departure of Milos Kerkez. There's no smoke without fire. We know that there's interest from Liverpool. We know that Liverpool made contact with Bournemouth last week to start those negotiations. At the minute, there's been no formal offer. I don't anticipate this to be bid offered, bid rejected, second offer, bid rejected, third offer. This will be a one-time hit. There's a brilliant relationship between Liverpool and Bournemouth. Richard Hughes, who was at Bournemouth for 15 years or so, obviously knows how they operate. There's a mutual respect between them, the manager, and the sporting directors and technical directors in place down on the South Coast. So it will be a case of, right, what do you want? And it will be yes or no. And they'll probably just do a little bit of shuffling with the finances and the structure of the deal. But I'd imagine this one now, to pick up pace and to answer Michael's question, is this someone to replace Milos Kerkez or compete with him? Probably replace him is your answer.
OK, so Trippier in at Bournemouth. That could well lead to Kerkez going to Liverpool. Therefore, Michael, Andy Robertson, what would that mean for him?
Well, there's a lot of interest in Andy Robertson from Atletico Madrid. I know Andy Robertson was talking about his future last few days on Scotland duty. Of course, Liverpool have also got Kostas Tsimikas as well. And if he's entering his final year, you do wonder if Liverpool might consider it. And we know Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone likes the Premier League. He loves watching the Premier League players. Kieran Trippier, that worked out well. Conor Gallagher seems to be going great. So this could be another Premier League-based player on his way. As I say, final year on his deal, which could be key.
Lots of players we're keeping a close eye here on the transfer show. We're now going to turn to Chelsea, who were